Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a look at custom notebooks, planners, and journals, and how customer feedback shapes their design. We're really diving deep into some insights from the CEO of a well-known custom notebook maker. This is juicy stuff.
It's funny, we often take notebooks for granted. They seem so simple. But they're actually a product of so many decisions driven by customer feedback. It's incredible when you stop and think about the details involved in making a great writing experience.
It's true. And the CEO tells the story about how he received an email about paper quality, and it was like a light bulb moment. He realized just how powerful customer feedback can be. He actually calls it gold for the stationery industry.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a retailer trying to choose the best notebooks to stock. You might be drawn to a notebook that looks beautiful, but then what if the paper's terrible for fountain pens? Or the binding falls apart after a few uses?
Oh, I've definitely been there. There's nothing worse than getting excited about a new notebook, only to find out it's a dud. It really makes you reconsider buying from that brand again.
Exactly. And the CEO actually points to research that shows 70% of people buying stationery Maca care more about quality and durability than how a notebook looks. So ignoring what customers want can actually cost companies sales and even hurt their reputation. It's a big deal.
That makes total sense. And actually, the CEO talks about a mistake he made early in his career. He was so sure he designed the perfect planner, but it totally flopped. And the reason? Customers found the layout way too rigid.
It was a turning point for him, that experience.
Hmm.
He realized that ignoring customer feedback is basically like trying to navigate in the dark. Real innovation comes from understanding what customers truly need, not what you think they need. So he developed a 5-step process for incorporating feedback into his business.
Okay, let's break down those 5 steps. The first one is gathering feedback from different places. It's interesting, he doesn't just rely on one method.
Right, he says it's important to look in lots of different places, like surveys, which give you those hard numbers, social media, where you can see what people are talking about in real time, even those one-on-one conversations that reveal deeper insights, and of course, online reviews, which are kind of a public forum for what customers think.
And he actually shares a story about how a survey he did on planners showed there was a real demand for customizable layouts and eco-friendly materials. It directly shaped his next product. It just shows how looking at different sources can create a complete picture.
Absolutely. But just gathering feedback isn't enough. The second step is all about analyzing that data. You have to go beyond just reading through comments and find the patterns and trends. He suggests grouping feedback into categories like quality, design, functionality, and sustainability.
Yeah, and he includes a fascinating chart from his company's data, which shows that while quality is still the top priority, concerns about sustainability and how well a notebook actually works are becoming more and more important.
That's a really key point. What customers want isn't set in stone. It changes over time. By analyzing feedback, companies can predict and adapt to these changes. They can stay ahead of the game.
So you've gathered all this feedback and you've analyzed it. What happens next? How do you actually put it into action?
That's step 3, where things get real. It's about taking those insights and making concrete changes.
He gives some great examples. If people are complaining that the paper isn't good for fountain pens, maybe you switch to a heavier paper like something over 100 GSM. If the planner layouts are too restrictive, you could try adding customizable elements like dotted grids instead of just lines. And with the growing demand for eco-friendly products, maybe you look into using recycled paper or bamboo covers.
He even gets into specifics about different types of paper, like comparing Tomoe River paper, which is super thin and resists bleed-through, to Rhodia paper, known for its smooth texture, perfect for fountain pens. You can tell he really understands the nuances of what customers are looking for.
Yeah, he's clearly not just throwing out generic solutions. He's thinking deeply about how each feature affects the writing experience. But wouldn't it be risky to completely redesign a product line based on just initial feedback? It seems like a big jump.
That's where step 4 comes in, testing and iterating. The CEO warns against making huge changes without testing the waters first. Instead, he recommends a more gradual approach, kind of like A/B testing in software development. You roll out the changes slowly, maybe offer different versions of the product, and see how customers respond to each one. It's about getting it right, step by step.
It's like dipping your toes in the water before you cannonball, right? You can get a feel for how people react to changes and adjust accordingly.
Exactly. It's about reducing risk and making sure that every change you make actually improves the product and really clicks with the people you're trying to reach. But it doesn't stop there. This leads us to step 5, keeping the conversation going.
I really love this idea of continuous dialogue with customers. It reminds me of something the CEO said. He sees every piece of feedback like a little note saying, hey, this is what I need. It's like building a relationship, not just selling something.
He views feedback as a constant source of inspiration and direction. By fostering open communication, companies can keep their finger on the pulse of what customers want and need, and the results are undeniable. Studies show that companies that actually use customer feedback see a huge increase in customer loyalty and sales.
He even shares some impressive stats from his own company. They saw a 30% jump in repeat orders for custom notebooks after making changes based on what their customers were saying. That's pretty convincing proof that listening pays off. But it's not just about fixing problems or dealing with complaints, is it?
Definitely not. The CEO also emphasizes the power of customization, letting customers design notebooks that are truly theirs. These products become extensions of their personal brand, reflecting their own unique style and needs.
I think that's what makes custom notebooks so special. It's not just about how well they work, it's about that feeling of connection. You're not just buying a notebook, you're buying your notebook, one that's a reflection of you and your goals.
He talks about working with a retailer who wanted to create a line of eco-friendly custom planners. They worked together, taking customer suggestions about layout flexibility and sustainable materials, and ended up with a product that was both functional and good for the environment.
Speaking of eco-friendly materials, I'd love to hear more about the options he mentioned.
Sure, he goes into detail about sustainable choices, highlighting the growing popularity of recycled paper, which helps reduce deforestation and minimize waste. He also mentions bamboo as a renewable resource for covers. It's a natural and stylish alternative to plastic. He even touches on soy-based inks, which are biodegradable and produce fewer harmful chemicals than traditional inks.
It's fascinating how these choices not only align with being environmentally conscious, but also improve the overall quality and look of the product. But are there any downsides to using these sustainable materials?
That's a great question. The CEO acknowledges that there are always trade-offs. For instance, recycled paper is a fantastic option, but it can sometimes have a slightly rougher texture than virgin paper. And bamboo, while durable, can be more expensive to source and process. It's about finding that sweet spot between sustainability, quality, and affordability.
It sounds like creating a truly sustainable product means thinking about the entire process, from where the materials come from to how it's manufactured. It's more than just putting an eco-friendly label on something.
Absolutely. He even talks about the significance of certifications, like the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC certification. It guarantees that the wood used in paper production comes from responsibly managed forests.
It's great that he's raising awareness about these certifications. They give consumers a way to make informed choices and support companies that are truly committed to sustainability. Going back to that five-step process, it seems like such a thorough way to incorporate customer feedback. It almost feels like a blueprint for success in any business, not just stationery.
I agree. The examples he uses focus on notebooks, but the core principles apply across the board. It's about really listening to your customers, figuring out what they need, and turning those insights into tangible improvements. It's a recipe for success.
He's like demystifying innovation. He's laid out a clear path, no more guessing games or relying on gut feelings. It's all about making decisions based on real data. That's a powerful concept.
He even encourages listeners to really think about their favorite notebooks. What features do they absolutely love? What would they change? It's about empowering people to actively participate in the design process.
I love that. It reminds us that we all have valuable insights to share, and that our feedback can influence the products we use and enjoy. It's a two-way street, and when companies embrace that, everyone benefits.
Beautifully put. So to recap, we've explored this five-step process for using customer feedback effectively. Gathering it from various sources, analyzing the data for patterns, implementing those changes, testing and refining and maintaining that ongoing conversation. It's a continuous cycle of improvement.
And we've dived deep into sustainable materials, exploring the pros and cons of using recycled paper, bamboo, and soy-based inks. Creating a truly eco-friendly product requires a holistic approach, taking the environmental impact into account at every step.
Wow, this has been a really fascinating look into the world of custom notebooks, right? It's amazing how much goes into making something that seems so simple.
It really is. And, thinking about this whole approach to feedback, it makes me wonder, what about you? What's your favorite notebook? What makes it special?
Ooh, good question. I really love notebooks with dotted grid paper. It's so versatile, you can use it for anything. But I'm also really picky about the binding. It has to lay flat. I hate when a notebook fights you while you're trying to write.
Yeah.
What about you? Are there any notebook features you just can't live without? Or things that drive you crazy? Oh, for me, it's all about the paper quality. It has to be able to handle fountain pen ink without any feathering or bleeding through. And okay, I'll admit it, I'm a sucker for a pretty cover. A notebook is such a personal thing, you know? I love those little details that make it feel special.
I totally get that. The cover is like the first impression, right?
Yeah.
But going back to the CEO's challenge, if you could change one thing about your favorite notebook, what would it be?
That's a tough one. Maybe an integrated pen loop. I'm always losing my pen.
Yeah.
And it would be so convenient to have it right there attached to the notebook. It's a small thing, but I think it would make a big difference for me.
That's a great idea. And that's exactly what the CEO was talking about. We all have valuable feedback to offer. Maybe our conversation today will even inspire some notebook makers out there. You never know.
I hope so. It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary things can be full of fascinating stories and opportunities for innovation.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of custom notebooks and the power of customer feedback. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
And to our listener, we'll see you on the next deep dive. We've got some exciting topics coming up, so stay tuned. And until then, happy writing.